I know you know that I made these mistakes maybe once or twice. By once or twice I mean maybe a couple of 100 times. So let me, oh let me redeem myself tonight. 'Cause I just need one more shot, taking chances. Yeah. Is it too late now to say sorry? 'Cause ooh, is it too late now to say sorry? Yeah, I know that I let you down. Is it too late to say I'm sorry now? Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. You are watching Books R Us. I hope you're all doing okay. Today's video is about a book. As always, this is my current read. I first saw its movie adaptation 5 years ago, I think, somewhere online, of course. Back then, I liked such stories. I was fascinated watching historical pieces, those war stories, brutal as they may seem, you know, and painful and tragic at the same time. I like seeing people having conflicts and how they're able to see, you know, enlightenment towards the end of the story, hopefully. The movie stars Saoirse Ronan, James McAvoy, and Keira Knightley. I didn't know it was based from a novel until I learned about it later on, and after so many years, I finally picked it up and dang, I absolutely liked it. It's way better than the adaptation, I must say. I liked everything of it, you know. Such a wonderful piece of literature, if I may say. This is published in 2001 to so many good reviews. It's a New York Times Book Review Editor's Choice, also selected as Best Book of the Year by Time. It won the National Book Critics Circle Award and eventually a finalist of Booker Prize. This book is a literary and historical fiction. It's set in England during 1935 with the backdrop of Hitler's looming rise in power all over Europe. And eventually, during World War II, it's told in third-person omniscient narrator. From a British writer, this is Atonement by Ian McEwan. What is the story about? This book has 4 parts. In part 1, we are introduced to the Tallis family. It's a rich family in England. It's set in a big mansion, you know, with a large library and a swimming pool. This mansion is situated in a countryside. It will give you this feeling of coziness right away. We have Emily Tallis as the mother who's ill. She always stays in her room and basically a homebody. We have Jack Tallis as the father, as the head of the family. And he works as a government employee, I think. And he's always busy, always away from his family, doing his work. And Mr. and Mrs. Tallis have 3 children. We have Leon, you know, the eldest and only son. And we have Cecilia as the middle child and the eldest daughter. They have 2 years apart. And the third child would be Bryony Tallis, 10 years younger than Cecilia. She is the youngest and the baby of the family. At the beginning of the book, Bryony Tallis is 13 years old, Cecilia is 23. Another character is Robbie Turner. He's the same age of Cecilia. Robbie is the son of Tallis family's cleaning lady, and Robbie and his mother live outside the mansion. They were given a bungalow to stay in. You know, it's situated not too far from the mansion, so it was given to them by Jack Tallis. So these kids grew up all together, and also Jack Tallis helps and funds Robbie's education. Robbie turns out to be a good and intelligent individual. He's academically inclined, so there will be some issues of somewhat jealousy and bitterness here of Jack's own children towards Robbie. We'll be easily drawn to the family and other individuals. You'll get hooked right away. It's so arresting. You'll be glued to the pages. We'll be introduced to the characters, the family dramas, issues, and what their motives are. Moving on, Bryony Tallis is our 13-year-old girl. She's a bit self-centered, somehow a bit all-knowing, you know, as a kid, to the point of being annoying sometimes. Bryony is active in sports. As a matter of fact, she will be representing her country for a national tournament. The good thing that the mansion owns a big library, and where she always stays and spends her time browsing through a dictionary and thesaurus and looking for words. She likes writing stories too, and as a matter of fact, she has written a few stage plays at that young age, one of which is called The Trials of Arabella. And this play is somewhat a melodrama, so she created this piece with the intention to inspire not laughter but terror, relief, and instruction in that order as what described in the book. So in this part, I think Mr. Ian McEwan was establishing what you should expect in the book, somehow foreshadowing the upcoming events in the book. So watch out for that. And so now Bryony witnesses her sister Cecilia and Robbie having this flirtation, if we describe it, while she's inside the mansion on level 2 from a window. She's seeing Cecilia and Robbie at the big fountain in front of their mansion, and as Cecilia is removing her dress in front of Robbie and jumped in the fountain with water and all. So through the mind of Bryony, while witnessing that scenario happening, she gave this an intriguing interpretation, which is a different story in the perspective of the two people being in that situation, because remember that Bryony was only having a glimpse of it, of what's happening through a window looking from the second floor of their mansion, and it's up for you guys to find out what that is. And so one day Robbie was about to be invited to a family dinner in the mansion, and with Bryony's cousins being present as well, we have a lady called Lola, and somewhat the same age of Bryony, with her twin brothers. You know, these 3 kids visited Tally's family one weekend and to stay there. And so there we have many people in the mansion now. While preparing and getting ready for the dinner in the mansion, Robbie Turner realized he has a special feelings towards Cecilia. And as earlier in the day, they had an encounter at the fountain, and he couldn't get away from thinking Cecilia after the incident that took place at the fountain. And being a student himself, Robbie has a typewriter in his room, and he sat in his chair, you know, and started typing a wholesome letter, a short passage saying he was sorry for what happened, as the expensive delicate vase that Cecilia was about to put water into, you know, got broken, and it was Robbie's fault that he insisted in helping Cecilia, but that vase ended up being broken because they had a tug of war, you know, holding the vase, which led to a couple of pieces being torn apart from the vase. It fell in the fountain to Cecilia's annoyance, and in this scenario, Robbie wrote a letter saying he was sorry for what happened and he'll make it up to her, you know, being a man and being playful. After writing the wholesome letter, he removed the paper from the typewriter, and he saw a book lying open on his study table called Gray's Anatomy. And, you know, in this very moment, he took another paper and inserted that to the typewriter. He began typing again while looking at a page from the Gray's Anatomy, looking at the female private part of human body. I'll be vague here. He wrote a playful and naughty passage that went, "I want to ... and in my mind, I want to ... That's one of the somewhat controversial passages that I've come across from a literary novel. So it's for you guys to find out what that passage is. So after typing that letter, the next scene would be Robbie going outside the bungalow, and while on his way to the mansion, this was already early evening, and he bumped into Bryony. You know, he told Bryony to give the letter to her sister Cecilia for her to read, so her mood changes prior to meeting him in the mansion. And Bryony took the letter right away and, you know, ran fast. And Robbie suddenly realized, oh my god, the letter that he wrote, was it the wrong one that he actually sent and gave Bryony? But she was so fast that he was already inside the mansion. And on the same night, while everyone was having dinner, and in that night, something terrible happened where the whole family gathered in that mansion would be sent into, you know, chaos. Now, the part 2 would be, it's about a war. Of course, the World War II actually happened, and we'll follow the life of Robbie Turner, you know, while being there in the army, you know, fighting and everything. Part 3, we will follow Bryony Tallis' life, being a nurse in the war, of what she goes through every day. We'll experience the situation happening, what are the patients in the hospital would be experiencing, her daily challenges of being, becoming a nurse and everything. For the final part, it will involve the present times, after the war and after how many years. I won't say anything further. It's for you guys to find out what happens there. So, yeah. And so what are your least favorite parts of the book? I can say everything was necessary in this book. I can't find a specific scenario that I didn't like, really. Maybe in general, I would say. It annoys me how people have to go through war and fight and die, you know, and sacrifice their lives. For what gain, really? There's the part in the book where Bryony, being a nurse, the reader will be faced with a lot of patients there. The terror the vivid description of these soldiers and armies losing a body part or two, of being sent to a room, cleaned by a nurse, and the next moment the person dies and the body has to be removed from the bed and be occupied by another incoming wounded person that needs tending to. It's so devastating to see these people suffer and not able to see their families anymore. It's such a waste of life. It's a difficult life having experienced being in that World War II. What annoyed me is that why is it difficult for someone in admitting their mistake when in fact it's already as clear as daylight and they already know they really did commit a mistake? And why is it difficult to utter the word sorry for some people? And this book will address that topic. What did you like about the book? I really like the plot. I like the overall story. For me, it's a feast for anyone who likes to read a literary fiction. I like the writing style. It really has compelling prose. It's a quality writing. I like the spellbinding storytelling. From page 1 to the last page, it will grip you. This book is just difficult for me to put down. I like the suspense, the intensity of some important and small and big scenes. And it's easy to digest, easy to understand. You can easily get into the story, get into the life of the characters, and you'll fly through the pages. And I get hooked with the premise immediately, and I think it helped that I first watched the adaptation a long time ago before finally reading the book, and it kind of gave a lot of excitement on my part. That's why I couldn't get away from the story, really, and it kind of gave a lot of anticipation and suspense that makes me keep flipping, the pages. I like the characters in this book. It's well assembled, I must say, and really fascinating characters. They were so easily relatable. I really admire Mr. Ian McEwan for coming up with this brilliant story. His execution is just awesome, very believable, and terrifically done. And I really like this book with its complexities, morality, philosophical insights, and of human psychology, basically, with themes of family, love, passion, of what war does to an individual, of stupid mistakes that we do, or how is it really being human, of our tendency to survive and endure and face life despite its many uncertainties. And I think this book will be my second favorite historical fiction now, next to The Reader by Bernard Shrink, if I may say. And I'm speaking of writing a novel and stories. Being a writer, I liked how Mr. Ian McEwan showed us how it is to be rejected and what goes through in a letter that publishers send to their aspiring writers who send their manuscripts in hopes of being published. Because I've been curious for a long time. I mean, we hear these famous writers having multiple rejections before actually getting published, and my curiosity was finally answered. I like that part. And also, I like the anticipation towards the climax where the characters finally made a confrontation. I experienced the pain, the rage, the humiliation there, and the feeling of being sorry, and of one admitting the mistake and almost begged na sige, saktan mo na ako para makaganti ka, makabawi ka, sige. But the thing is, some mistakes that we do that greatly affects an individual couldn't be repaid by an immediate physical assault. It was done with class, with control, and it was so intense, yet nothing physical takes place, and more of emotion, really. And one of the best scenes in any book that I read so far in this scope. I also like the part where one of our main characters attended the wedding and this person already knew who was the culprit and about to disrupt the wedding, but the person just let it go. And in this part of the book, the words of the Lord were uttered by the priest, that somewhat familiar Bible verses that is given during a wedding. And I see this element that, since we are talking about atonement, and Mr. Ian McEwan successfully added that element where somehow God's words should be heard by this important character and somehow giving full circle vibe of the story to atone, in God's presence by this important character being there in that situation, hearing the words of God. And you'll also be surprised to the big reveal who was the culprit of the crime that takes place in this book. And, watch out for that because it will make your blood boil upon knowing it. And for the seriousness of this book, I find some scenes really funny. I can't really help but laugh at some moments in this book. And that's a good thing, I guess. It gave me so many learnings. I felt for the characters. It invoked so many emotions in me. And, the annoyance, bitterness, dilemma, whether I should sympathize with the character. Really, to describe this book, I must say I'd go for intense. And I enjoyed the book, really. If you're looking for an intriguing story with themes of love, how to be young and stupid, of being judgmental, you know, to forget and forgive, of moving on, and how to correct a mistake, and then if there's such a way, you know, correcting it. And a family story that is set in World War II. And if you want to be transported in England, in London, meeting some compelling characters that you won't easily forget, with quality writing in a gripping plot, this book is for you. Before I forget, I want to give a big shout out to all our fellow human beings from the medical field, all our frontliners. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you, and thank you really for all that you do. Also, one thing that I liked in this book is a couple of our main characters had to be a nurse during the World War II and do their duty helping the wounded soldiers, which gives us a glimpse of how tiring, difficult, and dedicated they are in saving lives, in helping people. So again, thank you so much. And so there you have it, guys. Thank you for joining me today. I'd like to say more about this story. It's just so gripping and intense, but I'm afraid I might reveal too much of the plot already. And so I really did try hiding important events in this book. I hope I didn't give away too much, and I hope you liked this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you do. Please don't forget to subscribe as well if you haven't yet. Thank you for joining me today. I hope to see you again on my next video. If you've already watched the film adaptation or you've already read the book, let's have a chat in the comment section below. I'd like to hear your thoughts about this book. I'm your Pinoy BookTuber. Basa-basa din pag may time. Stay safe. Bye for now.